7th December 1941. It was the last day in history after which the world map was about to change forever. A calamity was about to befall on the US Navy base, the extent of which no one could imagine. In the battleship, an African-American, Doris Miller, serves breakfast to Navy officers as the sun rises and then gets to work on collecting their laundry. Exactly at 7:57 a.m., Doris hears a siren, that siren which perhaps no sailor ever wants to hear in their service. He immediately goes outside and is astonished to see that the entire sky is filled with Japanese bomber aircrafts. In the blink of an eye, it seemed as if doomsday had descended on the entire naval base, because the Japanese aircrafts began to systematically destroy American ships. This attack was carried out on the US's Pearl Harbor base, and today we will find out why Japan dared to attack a country like America. Why was Doris Miller, merely a cook, given America's highest award? And why did America carry out a nuclear attack on Japan? Our interesting story begins in 1941, when America put everything on the line to save China during WW2. Yes, the same China against which America openly speaks today in 2023. It so happened that 3 years had passed since the start of World War II. On one side were Germany and Italy, while on the other side were Britain, Netherlands, and France. America had no part in this war. It was completely neutral because it wanted to keep itself away from the war due to the damages incurred in WW1. But there was a country that was continuously troubling America, and that was Japan. Due to a lack of natural resources, Japan was rapidly seizing control over neighboring countries so that it could meet its demands for natural resources. Japan had already occupied large areas of Korea, Taiwan, and China. In the Pacific Ocean, Japan also had its eyes on the Philippines, Malaysia, and Indonesia. But the problem was that Malaysia was a British colony, Indonesia belonged to the Netherlands, and the Philippines was a colony of America, which preferred to remain neutral. These countries did not like Japan's conquests over other nations, because essentially, Hitler was behind Japan, and Hitler was an enemy of Britain and America, seeing Japan's actions. In July 1941, America stopped supplying oil to Japan. Japan did not have its own oil, but imported 80% of its demand from America. America set a condition that first, it had to relinquish its control in China. Then only would it receive oil. For Japan, it was a very difficult decision. On one side, if it relinquished its hold on China, the entire world would think that despite supporting Hitler, it had kneeled before America. On the other side was oil, without which Japan's hold would weaken anyway. Japan decided not to withdraw its troops from China, but instead secretly planned to seize Indonesia for oil. But this task was not easy. As we have already learned, Indonesia was a Dutch colony at the time, and to reach there, it was necessary to first capture the Philippines, which was an American colony. Japan was well aware that if it attacked the Philippines, a counteraction would be taken from the American naval base in the Pacific Ocean, Pearl Harbor. However, since Japan's oil reserves were rapidly depleting and they had no option but to attack, not the Philippines, but Pearl Harbor. Yes, the Japanese military commander decided to conduct a surprise attack on America's Pearl Harbor base to completely destroy it, so that afterward, Japan could easily capture the Philippines. Now, Japan secretly started preparing for an attack on Pearl Harbor. It began preparing its fleet, which included 2 battleships, 39 submarines, 30 destroyers, and astonishingly, 414 bomber aircraft. These aircraft were dispatched towards Pearl Harbor aboard 6 aircraft carriers. On the other hand, if we consider the American force stationed at Pearl Harbor, it consisted of 8 battleships, 59 anti-aircraft ships, 4 submarines, and 390 aircraft. It appears that America had sufficient forces to thwart the Japanese attack, but it was crucial that they receive prior information about this attack. However, Japan wanted to keep this attack secret in every possible way, so the Japanese commander decided to avoid any kind of wireless communication before the attack. The force departing from Japan covered a distance of approximately 8,000 kilometers and was now only 370 kilometers away from Pearl Harbor. This was the point from which the aircrafts were to take off from the aircraft carrier to launch the attack. This was going to be the largest attack of WW2 in which America had not yet been involved. On the morning of December 7, 1941, at 7:57 a.m., 350 Japanese aircrafts launched an assault on Pearl Harbor in two separate groups. The Americans, completely unaware of the impending attack, felt as though doomsday had descended upon them. The first group of Japanese aircrafts showered bombs. For 45 minutes, they attacked Pearl Harbor and then returned. Initially, it seemed like the attack had ended. But 10 minutes later, a second group of bomber aircrafts arrived and further devastated the remaining naval base with a barrage of bombs. The attack lasted for a total of 1 hour and 15 minutes, during which Japan overwhelmingly dominated. 20 American vessels, 8 battleships, and more than 300 planes were destroyed while stationary. The ground was engulfed in flames, and the sky was obscured by clouds of black smoke. During this time, Doris Miller, the African-American cook mentioned at the beginning of the video, was on a battleship collecting laundry when he heard the siren. By the time he got outside, a Japanese torpedo missile had hit their ship, injuring many officers, including the ship's captain. Doris single-handedly first moved the injured to safety, and then took position at an anti-aircraft machine gun, counterattacking the Japanese aircrafts. Without any training, he managed to shoot down a total of 6 Japanese planes. During this attack, Japan lost a total of 29 aircrafts. Doris Miller was the first African-American to be awarded the Navy Cross later on. This award is the highest in the Navy and the second highest in the United States, following the Medal of Honor. 1 hour and 15 minutes after the attack, the Japanese aircrafts returned, but they had now propelled America into World War II, the same America that had not been involved in World War II prior to this attack. The very next day after the attack on Pearl Harbor, America decided to teach Japan a lesson and declared an open war against them. For the next 3 months, America was engaged in restoring its naval base. Fortunately, many ships were sunk in shallow waters and were repairable. After 4 months, America attacked Japan just as they had attacked Pearl Harbor. Yes, in April 1942, America rained bombs on Tokyo, the capital of Japan. This was America's first attack in WW2, but it did not stop there. For the next 4 years, a fierce battle ensued between Japan and America, with America now having the upper hand. Japan was significantly weakened in this war but refused to surrender in any case. They were not surrendering to the Americans. Finally, in August 1945, America used its last card against Japan. On the morning of 6 August 1945, at 8 a.m., a Boeing B-29 Superfortress aircraft was seen over the city of Hiroshima, Japan. This aircraft dropped a 4,400 kilodome bomb named Little Boy over Hiroshima. Exactly 43 seconds later, a massive explosion occurred and everything turned white. Then, a fireball rose from the ground to the sky, raising the ground temperature to 5,000 degrees Celsius. This was the first nuclear attack in history, which, in an instant, turned over 80% of the buildings in Hiroshima into rubble. The Japanese military leaders were as if the ground had slipped from under their feet. Before they could understand what happened, 3 days later, on 9th August, America dropped another nuclear bomb on the city of Nagasaki, Japan. This bomb, named Fat Man, weighed 4,670 kilos and obliterated the city upon impact. These 2 nuclear bombs were the first and last to be used on humans. An estimated 260,000 people died in the attacks on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The very next week after the attack, Japan surrendered to America, and with that, World War II also reached its conclusion.